So as we check in with Paul right now, I guess we've been fairly lucky because Mother Nature has been very cooperative as far as fire danger, at least for the month of June, because it's been nice and gloomy out here, especially in San Francisco. The fog has rolled in. It's been fairly cool.
Yeah, we haven't had any extreme heat so far in either May or June. You know, it's eventually going to visit at least inland parts of the Bay Area, but we don't have any of that over the next several days. We'll keep that going as long as we can here as we head through the last days of spring, technically. Let's take a look at the big picture pattern, and we're always worried about dry lightning strikes as well. And we've been watching some thunderstorms in far northern California over the past couple of days, and there were a few more of those today. Even a severe thunderstorm warning for Siskiyou County earlier this afternoon, but not nearly the number of lightning strikes that were on the map yesterday. Over 6,000 lightning strikes yesterday in Northern California. Fortunately, most of those were actually associated with actual thunderstorms producing rain as opposed to dry lightning strikes. It could be a whole lot worse. Looking outside in our neck of the woods, here's the view from Mount Diablo. A little haze on the horizon, but nothing to worry about air quality wise. Temperatures are in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. That's it. No 80s on the map, even at 5 p.m. 56 degrees in San Francisco. It is chilly. It is breezy in the city. It's only 60 degrees across the bay in Oakland. Farther inland, that's where temperatures are mostly between 70 and 75. But we're going to be running at least a few degrees below average across the entire Bay Area over the course of the next several days. Let's bring in the local map, and we'll talk about the fog, which is already widespread, and it will become quite widespread as we head through the rest of tonight, spreading across the bay into the inland valleys, even through the gaps in the terrain, making its way into the Tri-Valley to at least begin the day tomorrow. Now, it won't take too long for that fog to start to retreat once the sun comes up, but even by 8 a.m., we're seeing a lot of gray on the Futurecast fog simulation, but eventually the sun will break through and temperatures at least warm up to within shouting distance of what's normal for this time of year. So let's take a look at those forecast highs for Wednesday afternoon, which will end up about 4 to 6 degrees below average for most inland parts of the Bay Area. Some of the warmest spots getting up to 80 in Los Gatos and 83 in Morgan Hill. A few more spots around Antioch and Brentwood also cracking 80 degrees. Otherwise, we're mostly going to be in the 70s inland, which we're supposed to be in the 80s on a pretty consistent basis this time of year away from the bay and away from the coast. Mix of 60s and 70s around the bay, mid-70s down the peninsula in Redwood City, only in the upper half of the 50s along the coast, and temperatures in the North Bay pretty similar to everybody else, but a little bit cooler as that southwesterly wind is going to be pretty effective at making its way into the inland valleys of the North Bay by tomorrow afternoon. And speaking of the wind, let's track those hour-by-hour wind gusts as we head through the next couple of days. The strongest winds are in place right now. Those are going to diminish somewhat overnight, but even during the nighttime hours, the wind is going to be noticeable. Picks up during the afternoon, dies down again tomorrow night. I think tomorrow is the slightly less breezy half of the two-day forecast for our wind gusts, but those winds are going to pick back up again Thursday afternoon, even if they're just fractionally lighter compared to what we're going to have on the map for tomorrow. So let's take a look at the long-range outlook here, and we'll go back to the big picture map here across the entire eastern half of the country, and we look at the 6 to 10-day outlook and the 8 to 14-day outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, which is trying to bring warmer air back closer to the Bay Area, especially some hints of that here in the 6 to 10-day outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. But we're in that first shade of orange, which doesn't indicate a lot of confidence that we're going to be seeing substantially warmer temperatures. And even the 8 to 14-day outlook leaves us right in between. Warmer conditions in the desert Southwest, cooler conditions for the Pacific Northwest. And here we are with basically normal June weather for the first several days of summer once it actually does arrive. Let's take a look at the 7-day forecast, and we will start at inland parts of the Bay Area where temperatures are going to be running a mix of upper 70s and low 80s for most of us. Again, inland parts of the North Bay are going to be a little bit cooler than the Santa Clara Valley for inland parts of the East Bay. But all these numbers, again, either close to or slightly below what's normal for the middle of June. Temperatures around the bay, mostly running in the mid to upper 60s. There are hints of just a little baby warm up right at the end of the 7-day forecast when temperatures bayside could climb up to the low 70s. But it's the last day of the 7-day outlook. It's a long way down the line for now. And at the coast, not much change. Plenty of June gloom to go around with temperatures struggling to hit 60 degrees. Again, maybe a baby warm up in store for us by the middle of next week, right?
All right, thanks, Paul.